we told you earlier that Weijia Jiang, who is at Vice President Cheney's funeral, might be getting some of those lawmakers to speak to her. She's talking to former Vice President Mike Pence. Let's listen.
Presidents in positions of great consequence, a chief of staff to President Gerald Ford, a Secretary of Defense to President George Herbert Walker Bush at a time that America went to war in Operation Desert Storm, and of course, as Vice President of the United States on September 11th, 2001. I think through all those years, he will be remembered as a steady hand. He'll be remembered as a man who never wavered in his conservative principles, but always made it about the country. That was always my impression in a business where, by definition, the emphasis comes on an individual. For Dick Cheney, it was always about the work. It was always about achieving the mission. And as the father of two members of our immediate family that are in the armed forces, I'll always be grateful for his extraordinary commitment to the men and women of our military.
And I wonder, as you prepared to take on the role as vice president, did you study his vice presidency? What lessons did you take away from his term, which was not always easy? In fact, as powerful as he was obviously a polarizing figure as well.
Well, I got to know him when I was in the Congress while he was vice president. In fact, we traveled together. And I observed then what I would learn more about in the days ahead is that he was a trusted advisor to President George W. Bush. And in that sense, I think he laid a foundation for the strong working relationship that President Trump and I enjoyed throughout all of those 4 years. Our administration didn't end the way I wanted it to, but I'll always be proud of the relationship and the work that we did together. And I think that Dick Cheney, in a very real sense, helped to define that role of vice president. We only have one president, but the vice president's role is to make sure the president has what they need to make the decisions, to implement the policies they were elected to advance. I always had a sense that's what Dick Cheney was about. I think when you hear the tribute today from President George W. Bush, you'll hear him reflect on what an indispensable and trusted advisor Vice President Cheney was. And I think if his father and if President Ford could speak from glory, they'd say the same. This is a man who selflessly, in so many ways, served America, and I believe America was safer, more secure, and more prosperous by virtue of the roles that he played.
And as we watch mourners file in today, we are seeing leaders across the political spectrum. And right now in this country, as you know, there is so much division. Is what we're witnessing inside something that is, that we might not expect in the years to come during an occasion like this?
Well, I think what you're going to witness in the pews here at the National Cathedral is America. Look, our politics are more divided than any time in my lifetime, but I'm not convinced the American people are as divided as our politics. This is a country that admires people of principle, who are dedicated to public service, who are dedicated to serving the nation. And what you're going to see in these pews today, I think, are people that, whether they agreed or disagreed with everything that Dick Cheney stood for, advanced, they're going to celebrate a life of integrity and a life of service to the United States of America.
And thank you, Mr. Vice President, for your time and for your service. Appreciate you. Thank you. Vlad, back to you.